I just really love our conversation because I think we have a lot of hangups around sales. And so I can't wait for you to share a lot of your tips and advice. And a lot of things that you share is advice from the heart. And for me, that's an important part of my show. So I am so excited to be talking about this topic because I think a lot of people struggle with sales, right? At the end of the day, we sell ourselves as job seekers. We have to be selling our services and our expertise and skills to recruiters or hiring managers. And at the same time, as entrepreneurs, we're selling our services, our goods, business owners, even corporate professionals. You're selling yourself and sharing yourself with your colleagues, with your boss, with people in other departments and so forth. So much of what we do, I think, centers a lot around sales. And when I first met this woman, or talked to her, I should say, by the way, shout out to Tara Hurley. I hope she's in the audience somewhere. She introduced me to this guest. And after I talked to her for half an hour, I knew I had to have her on the show. So everyone, please join me in welcoming Meshell Baker, sales and confidence coach and co-founder of ShiftCo. Meshell, thank you for joining me today.
Hey, Fanny, thank you. It's so great to be here with you today.
Oh,
so amazing. I loved your tip about the list, by the way. That was a great tip.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I just really love our conversation because I think we have a lot of hangups around sales. And so I can't wait for you to share a lot of your tips and advice. And a lot of things that you share is advice from the heart. And for me, that's an important part of my show, is having that come from heart and from great intentions. But before we go into all that, I want you to share with the audience a little bit about your background. How did you end up as a sales and confidence coach? And tell us a little bit about your journey, because I know a lot of my audience is also going through various career transitions and transformations. So I would love for you to share your journey with the audience.
Oh, well, thank you. My journey actually started, interestingly enough, when I was the young age of 20. I actually made a big mistake by the standards of California Penal Correction Facility, and I ended up doing a short stint in incarceration. And what I found is when I came out, I wanted to never go back. So selling someone on hiring me was my first thing, because what I recognized immediately is that the people who do not go back, or the term is recidivism, is that you keep a job. So I needed to explain and convince people why I could keep a job, or why to hire me. And then the next thing was, well, once you're hired, how do you keep a job? Well, the people who keep a job become valuable. So my standard and what I really teach people, and pretty much everything I do, is about getting clear on what you want and then becoming valuable in that journey to having what you want. So I went from there, I went back to college and got my degree, a freshman when I was 25, came out and decided that, okay, in my mind, and this is the story I would tell myself, that I had heaped this huge shame on my family. So now I need to live a life of what I should do so that they can be proud of me. So I spent two decades, hoping that someone else would decide, someone else would think they were proud of me, my parents, my family, right? I got degrees, I got promotions, I went from yellow pages to pharmaceuticals to medical devices covering cases in the OR to biotech, got my MBA, became a comptroller, went back out to executive sales before I actually realized everything I was doing was not leading to anything that was internally lasting or fulfilling. I had the stuff, I had the trappings, I had the titles, the business cards, I had made the money, I owned a house, I did all these things, and yet and still nothing was making me feel this lasting, this happiness, it's not even happy, because happy is an emotion. I was looking for something that was fulfilling, that had meaning. Yeah. And that's the word I always think about. I wanted purpose. I didn't know what it was at the time. I just knew that there was something missing.
Wow. And so how did you get into sales coaching? Like what made you decide to land on sales?
What made me do? Okay, so I had the background in sales. When I stepped out of corporate, it was and I tell people I actually left corporate and I thought I was leaving one job for another, but I left my 80% travel job. I had a 10-state territory to be the live-in aide for my sister. So I was planning to get a local job in Austin, Texas, and be her aide and still sell. But as life would have it, I got invited to a women's networking group. The speaker talked about purpose, and I realized that was the meaning I was looking for. And so I decided, and I remembered, lo and behold, before I started getting in trouble when I was 13, I had 3 businesses.
Yeah.
Right. So when I tell people, when you follow your curiosity, and you'll hear me say this a couple of times, when you follow your curiosity, you're not certain why you want to go there, or why you want to read that book, or why you want to watch that video, or why you want to hear that talk. Follow the prompting that's coming from inside of you, and it leads you to exceedingly more than you ever thought possible. And I was curious.
Follow your curiosity.
Follow your curiosity. Yes. And the person who invited me, I was thinking, well, I'm going to go look for a job. Why would I go to a networking event with entrepreneurs? I had never gone to anything like that. But the woman was so, and her name is, I have to shout her out, Jane Goss Gibson, my first coach. She was so stunning when I met her in the lobby of a women's event that I was just like, I was just curious, and I went, and it changed my life. And so from there, I answered the question, what do people ask me the most? Because everyone's an expert in something, right? So what is the most common question you're generally asked is your expertise. And people always ask me, why are you always so happy? Why do you smile so much? Why do you always have positive things to say? So I started out being a vision coach. I became renowned for my vision board process, for my vision mastery intensives, and really getting people to write these clear, compelling visions that catapulted their success. And majority of my clients were either professionals or business owners, and they wanted to learn how to sell. And my background in sales, I kept getting that question, like, why does everybody know you? Why are you always like, you obviously can sell. Help
me. We have someone in the audience. I think that's your fan, Tim Swanson. When you follow your curiosity, it leads you to exceedingly more than you ever thought possible. Mishell. He's quoting you. Tim, thank you.
So I'll be looking for that meme later, Tim.
Yeah. Clark White in the audience, an incredible story. Wow, she is amazing. Yes, until you hear more, Clark. Yes, indeed. And Abby was saying, becoming valuable in the journey to having what you want. Yes.
Yes.
Indeed.
Yes. So
your honesty. Yes.
Yeah. So often, and that's where the one of the biggest misnomers for sales is that you're getting something. Right? It's getting. So the desires, I'm going to get money. I'm going to make money. One of the things I remind people is you can still use the term, but be clear that no one actually makes money, right? Unless you work for the US government in a mint, right? Or you actually exchange you're exchanging what you do for value, right? Your value of how you do and how you show up and how you perform is compensated by someone else's belief in that. So if you want more money, you must become more.
Oh, I love that. But let's rewind real quick, because I want to dive into that. But I just really quick random tip, right? Like, even when you mentioned that you met your sales coach in the audience, right? And or at the networking event. So really random question or random comment is that I met Tara Hurley, who you referred to you.
Yes.
Because I mean, this sounds so odd, but like we literally we were both at a conference and our eyes kind of like locked. And I was like, I want to talk to that woman. And we literally walked up to each other and then just talked and then realized that we were both moms. And then from there, we just started talking about recruiting. And she ended up becoming a client of mine, a great friend of mine. And now here I am talking to you. So there's serendipity of random connections, right?
Okay. So
random things that we meet, the people, and where it leads us.
So wait, I didn't tell you how I found Jan. I was at actually a women's Christian conference, and my mom had came down from Dallas. I'm in Austin, so this is the first time we had done anything in Dallas. So we stopped, and I don't remember if you heard this on Sam Moon. So we stopped and got our bling, right? We got the blingy belts. So we went and got bling because we wanted to be Southern women at this conference. Yeah. So we were in the lobby waiting for them to open the doors, and we were standing there going, "No, you look good. No, you look good, girl. No, you look good." So we were having like "you look good" fest. And I looked over and saw Jan, and she was stunning, and she was by herself. And I told my mom, I was like, I don't know why, but I think I need to tell this woman she's stunning. Not that she needs to hear it, but I just felt like what we had experienced, I wanted to give her. And I walked up to her and said, I know you don't know me, but I have to tell you you're stunning. She shook my hand and was like, who are you? And that's how it happened. And we've been friends since. And I tell people, follow your curiosity and that's when I talk about be valuable. Mm-hmm. Whenever I'm prompted, I follow the promptings.
Love that. So let's jump into sales.
Yes. Yay.
For the longest time, I entered the entrepreneurship journey 5 years ago. And for the longest time, I have all these misconceptions about sales. Sales, when I think of sales, I think just slimy car salesman. I think like greedy person. I think somebody that just talks about money and like can't be trusted. And then suddenly I'm thrust into entrepreneurship and I'm the one that has to sell. And I have all these misconceptions.
Yes.
But before we get into what sales is, like, what are some of the misconceptions that you've heard around sales?
Like it's hard, the biggest misconception is that you have to learn all of these tricks and process. Like you have to learn how to overcome objections. You have to, you have to convince them of why. Don't let them say no, right? Because if they're in front of you and they need it, you have to convince them to say yes. Right. So that's like one of the biggest ones that I hear people pitching is that you have to convince them to say yes. Don't let them walk away. Like there's all these rules about how many people need to be converted in a room. Right. So if people don't convert, they feel like they haven't done their job. Right. I did a free webinar and people didn't sign up. And then the person feels like they're a loser. I didn't get anyone to sign up. Oh, my God, I suck. Right. And not getting the close is equated to a loss is one of the biggest things I think people don't get. It's not a loss. It's never a loss.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you taught me this really interesting term called conscious entrepreneurship, right? And yeah. I want to dive into that because I think that's it was such a great way to frame entrepreneurship. And so tell us, like, what is your definition of conscious entrepreneurship? And then how does that differ from the traditional ideas that we have of entrepreneurship?
Okay. Well, for conscious entrepreneurship is more looks at when you think about someone who is more concerned or more focused on transformation. Their goal is to create things that help people, that elevate people, that change people's lives, right? Traditional entrepreneurship, as we're taught, is you sell products, you sell an offering, and you make money, right? This is why we hear the make money term so much. You are, your litmus test of success is how much money you have made, right? And they often tell you make the money first and then you can help people. You can't help people if you don't make money. is what you hear with a lot of traditional entrepreneurialism. With conscious entrepreneurs, they're so focused on transforming and being a part of the shifting of mindset and of consciousness of the planet and helping humanity, they almost repel money, right? You'll hear them say, I don't care if I make money. I don't need a lot of money. I just want to change lives. So the conversations coming from these two individuals will be very different.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, that reminds me, I was listening to Simon Sinek, and
Yes.
he was talking about, I guess he gave a talk, one at Microsoft and one at Apple. And he was just talking about how different the two cultures were. This is a video from a while back. And Microsoft was intent on competing with Apple, right? What can we do to beat Apple, right? And he said when he was at Apple, they were just conscious about how can we serve the customer? How can we help teachers with our products? How can we help students with our products? And like when you describe conscious entrepreneurship, it really made me think of that example and how he highlighted that.
Fanny, that is a great example, and I will add that to my presentation because that is a perfect example, right? A conscious entrepreneur is about the outcome and the transformation, and that's what Apple has been. They're visionary. They invite the end user into the vision of something greater. The traditional is trying to find the gap in the marketplace and compete in the marketplace, how to be better in the marketplace, instead of elevating the
money comes as a result of that. As
yes.
you know, like the Apple stock is doing so well, right? We actually have a comment from the audience, just real quick, around your comment about curiosities. He says, I sometimes see clients challenged with staying in touch with their curiosity and passions due to their fear and anxiety. What tip do you have for them?
A great question, by the way, and it's so think of it as a practice. It's to stay in line with your curious observer, and generally what happens is, due to their fear, anxiety, they've gone into what I call the critical judger. Right? They're criticizing and judging their situations, their decisions, what they did or didn't do, how they could have been better, versus being curious and asking the question, how does this benefit the desired outcome? So to stay curious, you must ask yourself questions. You must stay in curious mode. So it's like the game tape. Athleticism is a great correlation to business success. Athletes are paid to practice. They're not paid for the game. Because what happens is when you practice, the game is done already. You vision it 100 times, 1,000 times. So when you get the ball, you make the shot. So practice makes prepared and makes it permanent. So for your listener, get some questions that will help shift your clients to being curious instead of going into anxiety. They're going into anxiety because they're envisioning an outcome that's not in their favor. So what questions can they ask themselves? You know, how will this work out in my favor? How can I create this incredible outcome? So start asking questions.
Oh, I love that. Yes. And so getting back to conscious entrepreneurship, one of the questions speaking of questions that you say to ask ourselves is, does it fit you? And I guess in a way, whether it's entrepreneurship or whether it is looking for a job, right?
Yes.
Does it fit you? What does that mean to you?
So when it means, does it fit you? So when you talked about, you know, before we got on, we really talked about working in an environment or surrounding ourselves with like-minded people, right? Jim Rohn says it's the best. We are the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. So when you find what fits you, it lights you up, right? When you're doing what doesn't fit you, it's always a struggle. It's always a hardship. It's always difficult. When you're doing what you think you need to, ought to, should do, right? Going back to Simon Sinek, he said, start with why, right? Businesses that have been around for 10, 20, 50 years, the vision of why they do what they do doesn't change, although everything else in that business will change. Right?
So does that tie back to, like, so let's say I have a service or a product that I'm trying to sell, right? Especially in even corporate, right? Is that the question I'm asking myself? Is, does this product and service fit me, fit my values, my brand, and so forth?
Does it fit what lights you up? So you're going more into, does it fit your purpose? Does it fit your passions? Does it fit the legacy of the life you want to live? Right. So you're asking yourself,
Oh, say that again, Mishell.
does it fit the legacy of the life you want to live?
Does it fit the legacy of the life you want to live?
Yes.
I just want us to sit with that question, because there's so much weight in that, right? Like, I mean, we were just saying earlier, right? We're in the midst of a pandemic. Like, we make choices on our legacy and on our health, right? Like, but like you said, we only have X number of years, right? And so, yeah, does it fit with the legacy you want to leave? Okay, love it. Sorry, I had to reinforce that point because it's so powerful.
Yeah. So does it fit? Because there's a term that I heard, and if anybody here go back TED Talk, watch Simon Sinek Start with Why. It's about 18 minutes, and he has this short video in there. He talks about the first follower. Right, and there's this guy in there that's dancing, and he's doing this crazy dance at this like an ACL kind of thing. It's an outside concert, and he's just dancing, and he looks weird, and people keep walking past him and looking at him, and he just doesn't stop. Eventually, someone joins in. Right. And then once he has one or two people join in, it just immediately goes off and everybody's dancing. Right. And it's always the first. It's when you light yourself on fire, the world will come and watch you burn. Right. Not enough people are doing what is invigorating, what is inspiring them, what lights them up, the passion. When you hear me speak, it comes from inside of me. Right. This is not just knowledge that I've learned, although my expertise and my, subject matter, all of that comes from me continuing to learn and read books. And it all started with a belief that came from inside of me. Because if you don't believe it, right, that means it fits you. You believe it, you can't sell it. You cannot sell what you don't believe. It's a struggle. And if you are selling it, by the time you get home, you have no energy left for the people you claim to be working so hard and love.
Yes. Mindy even says in the audience, can totally apply to job seekers too. You gotta find that job you love, right?
Find the job you love. When someone asks me about an interview, I ask them, why do you want to work there? Why do they get you? Right? You're the asset. I don't care how they frame it. Why do they get the blessing of you every day showing up, being your best? Right? If they can't answer that question, do not work there. How are they going to help you elevate your skill set as you elevate their profits?
Yeah. See, Abby, when you light yourself on fire, people will come watch you burn. Yes, indeed. Light up everyone else.
Thank you. I think Deepak actually posted the.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you. Go to that YouTube link that Deepak posted. Thank you, Deepak. Yes. And then the second question you had was, what's your differentiation? Tell us what you mean by that.
So differentiation is what makes you unique, right? When I'm talking to people, again, one of the most common questions I get is, how can I sell more, right? So the question is, what do you have to offer? What do you have to offer that's so valuable? It's going to transform the experience and the life of your, potential buyer or clients. And when you're not clear on that, you're literally throwing spaghetti at a wall, hoping it's going to stick. Right. It's like when people go to the networking event and they are, looking, they're out there with commission breath. Right. You can tell when people are asking you just questions because they're trying to see if you will buy.
If you're a good prospect.
If you're a good prospect. Right. I was talking to someone just the other day, and he was saying he was recently, before COVID-19, he was at a networking event at a chamber or something. And the guy asked, how many people are here to sell something? And pretty much everybody raised their hand. And then he said, how many people are here to buy something? Almost nobody raised their hand. Right. So how do you get in front of the people who want what you have to offer? Right? How many clients do you actually need to be successful? There's 7.5 billion people on the planet. I'm certain you don't need all 7.5 to be successful. So how many do you need, and how do you find them? And it all starts with getting clear on who that ideal client is. And I know entrepreneurs, you've heard this term, but
Yeah.
getting clear on that is everything, because then you know how to talk to them. You can hear them, and they can, most importantly, they can hear you.
Mm.
And that's
So
what
what if somebody,
differentiation is. It's right.
yeah,
So you're no longer competing, right? You're actually just in a space, you're talking to your clients, they're talking to you, and you guys are welcoming each other so you can co-create.
mm. What if somebody says, well, I don't know what makes me different. I sell shoes and you sell shoes. I don't like what do you say to people when they say, I don't know. I don't know what makes me different. Like, how do you explore that with them?
So, and it's a great question that honestly, most of the population has not done this work and taken the time to understand what makes them different. So then we go back to square one. So what fits you, right? You won't, the difference doesn't matter until you're clear on what fits you, right? Just trying to be different for the sake of being different will fall flat. It becomes disingenuous, right? It's like attention grabbing, attention seeking. We've been around those people, right? Just loud for no reason. But when it's tied to something that has meaning, purpose, like, I tell people there's a difference between doing business with someone who's really good at what they do versus someone who loves what they do.
Yeah.
Someone who loves what they do will transfer. I don't care if they're an accountant, if they're in social media, if they're making sandwiches. When they love what they do, you get the love as the buyer, right?
Mm.
And that creates raving fans. And that's a term that's, was coined a while ago, but it's still true to this day in the marketplace. So that differentiation will resonate so loud when it fits.
Mm. Yeah, that actually, as you're saying that, that reminds me, I remember traveling to Vietnam one year, and they have like all these, so there's all these like alleys, like markets and streets, and within one alleyway is like five people all selling the same potteries, right? And I would think like, how do they stay in business? And I remember one lady that like stood at the front of her store and literally like was just sharing her enthusiasm for people and like complimenting people as they're walking by. And and so that got my attention, right? Like she was engaging with people in the audience or along the street, and that pulled me in, and I ended up going into her store versus all these other stores that were just, not different. Right?
Yes, exactly. And that one little thing, right? So what made her decide to do that was she probably had a prompting,
Mm.
right? And generally when you have a prompting, when it's something that will make you different and stand out, your unconscious mind will generally scream at you, oh my God, you're going to look stupid. Oh my God, why would you do that? Oh my God, they're going to judge you, right? And it's the small percentage of people who have practiced and conditioned themselves to follow that.
Mm.
Because they know that's the curiosity of, right? If you listen to anyone who has had incredible success, they will tell you they have failed way more times than the one success they're being touted for, or the few successes they're being touted for.
Yeah. So the next question you had was, does it allow you to scale? Right?
Yes.
What does
Yes.
that mean?
So does it allow you to scale? So this is where conscious entrepreneurs, you put all this heart in it. The scaling requires at this point some type of automation, some type of assistance, some type of team where it starts to separate you from those that you love. And the conscious entrepreneur, like the traditional is okay, like more money, more people, let's get them in here. How can I automate faster, right? And it's not a bad thing. There's no judgment for either one. I'm just speaking to those who are conscious, who are looking at how can I serve more people, right? How can I impact more people in the time that I have here, right? And so scaling is that ability to still make that impact that you want to make while your business grows and thrives. And it's absolutely possible. And that's why I became a co-founder in ShiftCo, because that was a question I kept asking. I kept, over the years, I've expanded and imploded and expanded and imploded. And I was just thinking, and I've, paid for all this coaching and all these coaches. And I kept thinking, what's wrong with me? Like I literally got to the point, and I love me some me. So and then again the question changed. I got curious. So I as I started to practice, I realized, okay, ask a better question. There's infinite number of ways to get any wrong result. So, my higher power, you guys can call it whatever you want. I just started having a conversation. Where is that tribe of people that have already done this?
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's how I became and started connecting with the tribe of Shift Co.
Yeah. Actually, while we're here, please tell us a bit more about ShiftCo.
So ShiftCo is a business growth community for conscious entrepreneurs. So again, looking at
What's the website? Actually, while you do that, I'm
it's shiftco.global. Right. Yeah. Pop it in there. So, and we constantly have events. We do a lot, pretty much everything is virtual right now with COVID-19. So you guys, anybody listening, sign up for anything. We have hubs. There's an Austin hub. Currently, we have about 5 or 6 hubs, and we're continuing to grow. And we have virtual events. If there's not a hub in your area, you can sign up for that. And the reason we created this is that we see that there's a shifting in humanity. And we understand that business is the way. You can scroll down. Business is how our focus first is to help people who are conscious, who really want to change humanity, to thrive in business. So that is our first commitment. As a conscious business owner, our goal, our commitment to you is that you will thrive in your business. And secondly, that allows you to be more incredible for your employees, those people, your clients you serve, and your community. Right? These are people who are purpose-driven businesses who want to make a bigger impact in the world. And we know, given the resources, you will do this. So this is what our commitment is, to come together and shift, and how we are coming together to shift consciousness through business growth.
Yeah.
And so, go ahead.
No, that reminds me, I was presenting at Dallas Startup Week yesterday, and someone was asking about, how do you find your community when you're a solopreneur, right? Yeah. And there's your solution right there. Is you have a community of other conscious entrepreneurs and solopreneurs. Yes.
Yes. And I'd love to point out, like, this is not the first community I've joined looking for that consciousness and that co-creativeness. And this one was I tell people, in order to be success, be willing to kiss frogs, right? I carry wart cream, basically, is what I tell people. Constantly kissing frogs, right? But this community, if you're here and this is something you've been seeking, I highly recommend jumping in and just experiencing it for yourself. And what we've done is we've created it where you come in and you receive mentoring, you receive on-demand training, you receive coaching, and it's all wrapped around this community that are your cheerleaders and your fans. Tim Swanson, who is on this call right now, is one of he's part of our community. And and he can pop in chat and say a few things, but we really are about helping people to create a map of those 3 questions that we talked about. Does it fit? What makes you different, and how to scale? That's demand, right? And in that community, it's like nothing you've ever experienced. Everyone that comes in says it's been something a question that they've had in their mind as a solopreneur, as an independent worker, as a freelancer, as a small business owner. Where is a community that understands that I want to create meaningful money? My money must have meaning, not just make money.
Yes. And then, Tim, community, that's where he met Mishell. Yes. And actually, Lana. Hey, Lana. Glad you can tune in.
Hey.
Lana is part of ShiftCo DFW Hub. And actually, going back to your point about differentiator, Tim, you brought up Bomba socks. Okay. And funny enough, I am a huge fan of these socks. Very random about being differentiated. And the reason they hooked me, and these aren't cheap socks. I think it's like, they're like $12-15 for like 6 pairs, right? And, but they really, their line is that they don't fall down. And I've had so many ankle socks that fell, but they really don't. So suddenly, here's this company that decided to like rock the sock world, right? Who has the guts to do that? Socks are socks, right? But they did that by differentiating themselves and their mission focus, and they donate a pair to the homeless. And so, I mean, tying back to your conscious entrepreneurship, that's a great example of that.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
So it's an incredible. So I said, if you see the link, jump over, sign up, and it's. I always tell people, when you're conscious, you understand that there's no accidents,
Yeah.
right? If you're hearing this, it's prompting you. Come over and meet us and see if we're fit. We welcome you with open arms.
Yeah, yeah. And there's a reason why you're watching this today.
Exactly.
Of all days. So now that we have that awareness of conscious entrepreneurship and asking ourselves the question of, does this product or service fit me, right? And what I'm selling and what my offering is. And then we've determined our differentiation. And then is this something that allows us to scale? The next thing you talked about was this importance of mindset and belief, right? Like so much of the traditional sales training is like, make sure you say this and say it in this way and follow up in X number of days and then dial 100 numbers so you get, whatever, 10 clients and so forth. Like so much of it is around the how, right?
Yes.
Tactics. And for me, that never worked for me. Like, and that's why, like for you, when you talk about mindset and belief, like that really resonated with me. So please elaborate on that.
Yeah, and thank you for that question, because it never worked for me either. And I was in corporate sales for 20 years, and I used to just learn what they learned. Like they give us that sales playbook, and I put it in a vertical file. If anybody doesn't know,
might as well be a robot.
Right? Yeah, because it just felt like it stripped me of everything. And so what happens is, in the traditional way of selling, and we're starting to see a shift in this, but in the traditional way of selling, people are taught what to do, right? This is what you do. This is who you sell it to. And this is how you say it. Like, this is, you say the script. And when they say no, this is what you say to them. Right. And that's all. People it's so right. And I tell people, selling is a noble and worthy job. It is one of the hardest jobs on the planet. You are talking to strangers all day long, asking them to part with money. Two most uncomfortable conversations on the planet are money and sex. So you are having one of the most uncomfortable conversations all day long with strangers, right? So, and when statistically broken down, the research shows that a sales transaction is 80% emotional and only 20% logical. So that logic component is the features and benefits of the product. So emotional, let's go to that 80%. If you don't have your emotions in check, you cannot inspire the emotions of your buyer. It's so hard. It becomes so difficult. It becomes so disingenuous. People know you're trying to sell them. Everybody's had that conversation with a sales rep where it felt icky, or even if it started off good, all of a sudden when the money came in, it was like they morphed into a different person, right? So everything you believe actually becomes a part of that sale. You can't hide your beliefs are unconscious. They don't transform in the moment. So what I tell people is, why do you want to sell? What does it mean? Who do you want to become as a salesperson? So that why and that who on the first end is the vision of your sales success. When you get clear on that and start to become that identity, the other what's and the hows become less difficult. And the way I say it simply, there's not a strategy in the world that'll work if you don't believe.
Let's dive into that. Like, why do you want to sell? So what are some of the common answers that you've heard people say around that?
Well, they want to make money. That's like the number one answer. They want to make money. right? It is like one of like I said, it's a noble and worthy job. It can change your life. You could have the most horrendous background, given one shot in sales, you do exceptionally well, you can change the trajectory of your life and career forever, right? If you know how to sell well.
Mm.
Right? It doesn't require a startup. If you can get into like one of these companies where they don't require a lot of background or history, whatever, you sell well, you can change everything.
And then what answers have you heard when you ask your clients, who do you want to become?
Oh, like I rarely get a clear answer. So there's a small percentage, right? Because you have the top 1%, the top 5% who are absolutely clear, right? I want to be president's trophy. I want to be the vice president of sales. I want to be the CEO, right? So there's a small percentage who already are clear on who they become. The masses can't answer that question.
Mm.
Right? Because it's not even just about sales. It's like, again, going back to the legacy. Think about it. How many people do you know actually know what the legacy of their life is?
Mm.
Like,
Yeah.
when it's like, if, when it's all said and done, what do you want people to say about you? How do you want to have left this world better off? Most people can't even answer that question, let alone a career question about who they want to be as a successful salesperson.
I once heard someone say, to tie into that question, right? Like they said, ask yourself, what do you want people to say at your funeral?
Exactly.
And then that will motivate you to whatever this question leads you to.
Exactly. And so we have such it's so interesting. I saw a meme recently says, it was talking about the fear of death, and it was like, we only die once, we live every day. Right. And people are so focused on that one, that one thing that they forget that you have all these amazing days in between to live.
Yeah. Mindy is saying, yeah, and I know Mindy. Mindy's like so like
Yeah, right.
warm and like passionate. And she said, it feels so natural for me to sell because of the connection with people.
Exactly. Right.
Not the monetary transaction. It's the connection with people.
Exactly. So, Mindy, I love that. When I worked in sales in corporate setting, people would ask me what I did for a living, and I said, I visit people all day long. They're like, what? I said, oh, yeah, I'm a sales rep. The technical term is a sales rep, but in my mind, I got to go out and visit all these amazing people and offer them products that would transform, if it was biotech, their lab, and the results of the tests they were, or pharmaceuticals, their patients. So whatever it was, I always look for things that I believed would create a better outcome for the end user.
Yeah. Tim was saying here, I believe typical sales training is very self-centered and tough for very empathetic people.
Yes.
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 Just entrepreneurship puts that empathy to forefront and attracts business more organically.
Yes. Oh my God. Oh my God. Like,
bravo, Tim. I like that.
Tim, you are now the content king.
I love it. Yeah, and see, like that's why Mindy loves sales. She just wants to make people happy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So what it does is it takes so much of that weight of the need for you to have them, make them do something. You're actually focused on an experience.
Yeah.
Right. I have one of my mentors at the National Association of Sales Professionals, where I do some work. Rod Harrison says, focus on what you propose, not the close. Right. So it's value first.
Oh, hold on.
I had to give him kudos for that one because I love that one.
Hold on. Let me type it up. Say it again.
Focus on what you propose, not the close. So what people think is they're focused on trying to close someone instead of actually creating a relationship, like Mindy said, making people happy. You never know, right? All we get to do is we get to plant the seed. We get to choose the seed, plant the seed, water, nurture, weed, and prune. We don't get to say when the harvest is. We think we do, but we really don't. Right? So when you actually live life just planting, you will always be in harvest. But so many people are out there planting and they go up and uproot that they never have a bumper crop, right? It's always a struggle. Just right. And that's where, now this is where the technicality of sales comes in. And some people cold call. And I always recommend like learn relationship marketing. Treat the ones you have exceptionally well, and then ask for referrals. Create a referral program. Create a customer appreciation program. And this is how you can cultivate more of what you enjoy working with, versus having to go out and cold call, which when you start, most of us do. It's a requisite when you start.
And I mean, and granted, LinkedIn is a great place and
yes,
to network and connect. And like all of you in the comments, right? Connect with each other.
Exactly.
There's a reason all of you are here.
The reason that we're all here. Everybody in the comments, send me a LinkedIn connection, because I want to stay connected to you. Because especially if you're watching, you're amazing. You're a fan. If you're a fan of Fannies, then I'd love to be your fan as well. And let's keep this fandom going.
Yeah. Like we're 50 minutes in, and if you're still here, you believe in empathy and in conscious entrepreneurship.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. I love that. I think I need to coin that empathetic selling, because it's just, it's just not enough, right? There's, I tell people what happens is we're selling all day long. From the time you wake up, every conversation you have, you're generally attempting to convince somebody something. Yeah. And as an adult, that's a sale. That's an actual transaction, right? A sale is simply your desire for someone to take action at the end of that conversation. That's all a sale is. So you're transferring your desired belief for them to take action. Transaction, people, right? And not enough people are focused on what's the win-win. Most of our society thinks of what they want, not how, and not realizing we have an infinite possibility. Create win-win. That makes you valuable. That makes you a highly sought after commodity. It allows you to increase. That's when people want to increase their price, things like that. Create the win-win.
Yeah. Just, I mean, this concept of empathy, right? Abby in the audience, she said, Tim, I definitely think traditional sales needs to be improved on. I personally find it difficult to connect to some ideals because I am empathetic. Yes. Like especially for those of you that are so empathetic, like we have to find that thing that we love.
Yes.
As we do, right? We can't stop. We gush about it, right? Like,
yeah.
Chuck says, one must truly and subconsciously support the product they sell or advocate, or they will not be able to successfully sell it. People will see through the deception.
Oh my God, Chuck. So yeah, it becomes icky, right?
Yes. You can always tell, right?
You can always tell, because that's that 80. So what people forget is, and this is there's technical terms or technical backgrounds in sales that are actually, so when we communicate, the breakdown is 55% physiology, 38% tonality, and only 7% words. So what I remind people, when you add up the 38 and the 55, 93% of how you communicate is unconscious. You do not control your physiology and your tonality in the moment. Whatever you believe comes through.
55% is
physiology. Right?
Wow.
Right. So people look at people when they're not making eye contact, when they're shifting. Watch, you can immediately tell when someone's nervous. We forget we're mammals and we have a sense about each other, right? We have this higher learning, and many of us have been conditioned to go, oh no, nothing's wrong, when we have the red flags going up everywhere. Right? Think about it. How many regrets you have you could trace back and went, I knew something wasn't right.
Or you're like, maybe not, right?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
You're like so close. And you're like, no, something feels off. And then,
right, yeah.
Mike, hey Mike, good to see you on there. He says it's the customer's buy cycle that matters, not your sales cycle.
Oh my God, Mike. Oh, there's so many good ones here. We have like a meme quote fest going on.
Like we have all these mic drops.
I love this.
Clark says this has been an amazing show that's full of key guidance. Indeed.
Yes. Hey, yes. Clark.
Yes. So definitely mindset and belief in sales, right? But also I find that, we're both women, we're both minority women,
Yes.
right? And so much of, at least my upbringing as a Chinese immigrant, right? I was born in China, grew up in Canada, and for so much of my early childhood, I'm taught to be the quiet one. Like,
Yeah.
don't speak up. Don't speak up unless you're told to, right? Like, just be quiet and be a good little girl, and respect your elders, and then that's it,
Yes.
right? And then we also, like, or I'm taught to apologize for things, right?
Hmm.
And be apologetic, and like apologize first and then work it out. And so we have all these misconceptions and like preconceived notions in our head around, like, I can't ask for a sale. I can't
Hmm.
ask for money. That's impolite. That's not what a quiet good girl should do, right? Like, I mean, like, it's just these like tapes that play in the head, right? Like, what are some of the challenges that you've seen women face in sales?
Great question. And just, jump in. I'm raised at Southern Baptist, so I was taught to be seen, not heard. Right.
Mm.
So I learned to be apologetic for my existence, because if they could hear you, you were like being disrespectful. So I grew up, so my parents, and I tell people, my father actually picked cotton. So my grandfather was a sharecropper, and my father and his siblings bought the property. And but yeah, so I was raised with that mindset. They saw colored signs and all of that growing up. And so what I saw and what I became aware of as I started to really grow in my confidence was how much we apologize,
Mm.
right? And how that just demolishes our credibility, right? Like I started, you can actually, and this is me watching the physiology of people, right? You can actually watch the stance of people change as they watch you, as the person keeps apologizing. I'm sorry. And the sorry is generally followed by a lengthy excuse.
Yeah.
Right? Instead of just being, I'm sorry for being late. It's, really out of character. I'm excited that I am here. And then just reframe while you're there. Right. And you know what? So with the time we have left, it's still a good amount of time for you. Is everybody still on board to move forward with, highlight what the reason you're there and move forward? We're really not taught how to remove apologies from our conversation at any point.
Mm.
We're judged about apologizing, but many people don't actually learn how to replace that with something that's actually more powerful,
Yeah.
and helps your credibility and helps your confidence.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that apology, and it comes from the mindset. It comes from words. What I notice is people who are worthy know that they don't apologize for their existence, and they understand that life happens. We're going to be late sometimes. Sometimes things fall through the cracks. They acknowledge it. They recalibrate whatever that commitment was, and they move forward.
Yeah. Even for me, like, I remember at the beginning of when I would tell people how much it would cost for a coaching session, right? And at the beginning, I would be like, well, go think about it first. And I know it's a big investment, but like, it's okay. And like, so I would get all these kind of like extra explanations, like you said, right? But then it finally got to a point, and I hired a sales coach, and
Mhm.
um, and he taught me, like, just say the price and then wait.
And wait, yes.
And that was like the best advice, like, because it's like, don't apologize, don't justify, you say the price, and then you just wait. And
Exactly.
I was like, wow.
Yeah, yes. And so, and I
Right.
love that. So I generally, when I'm working with people, it's, what does it mean to you to, how would it feel? So I actually ask people, what would it feel like if you could, feel good when you were talking to a potential buyer? Right. So getting the vision of what that's like and backing into it. Right. So what is the script? So if you felt good about it, what would you say? Or because you've heard someone do it, you're not just making this up in your head. What did they say? So preparing, again, it's the practice. It's
Mm.
going to How do you make this a repetition? Nobody magically becomes a top performing sales rep. They lost sales, they failed, things fell through the cracks, they forgot, right? And it's the willingness to just keep going that the more I do this, the better I get. Anytime you do anything you've never done before, it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
The expectation that we're going to magically be awesome after a couple of tries is what gets people in trouble, instead of focusing on applauding yourself every time you do it. Right? What did you know what? Doesn't matter what they did. I made the call.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't matter what they said, right? I made the call. That you have a checklist. So you do have the things that you're prepared before so that you can have something to follow, somewhat of a script that's aligned to you. And that way you're just practicing that till it becomes fluid. And as you do that, right, you actually start to re-script, because anything you start is never the same once you get good at it.
Yeah.
It doesn't look the same. So it's just getting something enough where you're willing to allow yourself to adapt as you go.
Love it. And you've created these tips, right, for sales. And you have this great acronym, B.R.A.V.E. Right? What does that stand for? And what is that? What are those tips around sales?
Oh, well, I love this. So be brave. And it's so first, the B is believe, right? I always ask people, what do you believe about yourself before you actually talk to the client? I recently was talking to someone about some speaking coaching, and it's like, a 5-figure investment, right? That woman got on the call and actually went through my LinkedIn. She knew who I was connected to, she had an 8-figure business, right? But she had taken the time. So it was like, what does she believe about herself? She actually must believe that she can transform my speaking. She believes that what she has to offer is actually incredible. And she believed and wanted me to know that she believed in me, right? So she went and saw who I was connected with, who she had already worked with, right? So it's like, what do you believe? If you want someone to give you their time, you must give them some of yours. Do the work, right? And again, so that, what do you believe? Because if you don't believe in what you have to offer, you won't do the work.
And also, in a way, like, believe in your customer.
In their customer, yeah, that's the thing. If you believe that right? If you don't believe in them, you won't look them up.
Yeah.
You won't do the research on them, because remember, it's a co-creation. Right? You are taking them, you're helping them to experience and have something they've never had before. So you're creating.
Yeah. Together. And then what does the R stand for?
So the R, it goes to the resourcefulness. So thinking about, like, so I want to co-create with them. I want to do something we've never done before. This is where people generally start to trip up on the how. Well, they want to stay within a frame. Well, I don't do that, right? Instead of actually asking clients questions like, based off of why we're here together, like, so they want social media. Like, what would you love your social media to do for you? Like, what would you love for the outcome of your video content to be, right? The question that Fanny would ask her clients, right? So I asked me, well, what would sales success mean to you? What would it mean to you to be a top performer, right? What would that look like? What is that vision in your head? So realizing that once you ask that, everything you need to know is already in you. We don't fail for the lack of resources. We fail for the lack of resourcefulness. Understanding that we have, like, you have Google. I have people ask me questions and I'm like, did you Google it? They're like, no. Right? And I'll Google it and the answer is like within the first 3 things.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I can't. Did you Google it? I'll Google like exactly what they said they can't do. The answer's right there. Right. Yeah. We have access to unlimited resources at our fingertips that we freeze, right? We think we have to know. You don't have to know. You just need to believe.
Yeah.
And once you believe, your access to resourcefulness, right? Your mind is either in fight or flight. If you don't believe, you go into flight. Your mind constricts. When you believe in yourself, your product, and the client, you become amazingly resourceful. That's when you have your ahas, your epiphanies, when you have your revelations, like, oh my God, I remember this. Oh my God, I know this person.
Yeah.
You have to believe first, and then you become incredibly resourceful.
And then also researching your target clients.
Yes,
What
exactly.
do they, what motivates them? What do they read? Where do you find them? I always tell people, like, where would you find your target audience, right? Is it on this platform or this platform, or what do they read,
Absolutely.
and so forth? Yeah.
Yes.
What does the A stand for?
Ask questions, right? Tony Robinson says it, when you're in your head, you're dead, right? Ask questions. And this is where having a community, having people you trust, where you can go and feel comfortable asking the questions. So curiosity is key. Everything right? You're not meant to know everything, right? We're not meant to be and do everything. This is how we're a tapestry. We're meant to work together with other people. So your willingness to ask questions is absolutely key. And not asking people to help you and save you, but asking questions, right? Not for someone to do it for you, but how it can help you be. Remember, your goal is to be valuable. Yeah. So you want to ask questions that are helping you to become more valuable to those ideal clients.
Absolutely. Yeah. And before I start on a coaching session or a contract with a client, I send them a whole questionnaire.
Yes.
Like, fill out this questionnaire so I can really get to know you first. Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes. Like when people try to sell me something and they've not asked me anything about my vision for the success of myself or my business, the answer is always no.
Yeah. And then the V, what does the V stand for?
So the V is to visualize win-wins.
Oh,
let's go back to it.
These are so golden, Mishell.
Right? So we actually have an imagination that makes us infinite. Think about a kid. So we are all born, unless you have a defect or, traumatic brain injury, we're all born with 100 billion brain cells. Yes. Makes you infinite, right? But we get stuck in, it has to be this or that, or I can't. I tell people, you don't know can't when you were born. You were taught and conditioned to believe there can't.
Yes.
I ask my clients, if you have not made an infinite number of attempts at your success, there is no can't. It's won't. I won't. But there's no such thing as can't. You just won't. You've given up, right? So again, visualizing
belief ties back to your belief, right?
Right. So visualizing the win-win. I am. So think about it like this. This is how I tell people, when you start learning and mastering your craft, and I know we're at time. So when you start thinking about,
as long as you want, it's my show. I always tell I'll go as long as the guest has great tips to share.
This is awesome, right?
Keep on going. This is so valuable.
Right? So think about it like this. The chance of each person's birth is like 1 in 40 million. Right? So when you look at Fanny and I, when we look at our ancestry, so we had all these people before us had to meet, date, procreate, meet, date, procreate, and all that stuff. So the chances of us, that 1 in 40 million, right now, the calculations and permutations of the fact that her and I are on this interview they're unfathomable. Yeah. So it's literally a miracle that we're here. Whenever you're in front of someone who wants what you have to offer, it's a miracle. When you start showing up and treating them and acting like it's a miracle and believing that you have been given the opportunity to create something amazing with this person that's in front of you who has what you want to offer, it changes the game.
Yes. Yes, ma'am. Yes.
So, and this is like when you start and this is the things that I'm teaching people when I'm coaching, when I'm doing my trainings with groups and everything, and getting them first. Always get them clear on what do you believe? How do you believe as a team you can go out into the marketplace and be different, have that differentiation and impact those ideal clients? So it all goes back to that. That's the foundation, and that's why, going back to Simon Sinek, that's the why. Why do you believe, right?
And then finally, the E. What's the E stand for?
Be extraordinary. So it's extraordinary, right? The difference between ordinary and extraordinary is just a little extra. And this is the difference between that. When I talk about that conscious entrepreneur who's doing something that has meaningful money, something they love, something that makes impact, they will always do the extra because they know it's creating a valuable experience for those that they serve, versus, it's cutting into my bottom line. will be what'll happen when they won't go that extra. The traditional is about the money, it's about the profit margin, it's about the ROI, right? So again, extraordinary, be extraordinary. You want an extraordinary life, you must be extraordinary.
Yes. So to summarize, believe, be resourcefulness,
Yes.
ask questions, visualize win-win, and be extraordinary.
Yes.
Wow. Wow. Like if I had mics, mic drop everywhere.
Yes. Yes.
That is so golden, Mishell. Oh my gosh. Yes. See, Chuck says outstanding.
Oh, well, thank you, Chuck. Yes.
He's typing up. We're all typing up. Right?
Chuck, I don't need to go get a trademark for you, do I?
Yeah. Oh, Tim was like, what's the A? A is ask questions. Yes, yes. Abby reinforced the point, like can't versus won't.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I like this. Clark says, I wouldn't want a discount on medical surgery that's life or death. I will pay full price.
Exactly. Yes. And it's amazing. Yeah. And that's amazing. People will ask a coach to discount, but they won't ask the surgeon. And the most valuable tool and resource we have is our mind, right? I tell people think they don't have enough time. They think they don't have enough. They're in lack and scarcity because they have not invested in the thing that gives them abundance, their mind. Everything becomes abundant when you invest in your mind.
Yes. Mike says, what's on your book list? Love your bookshelf. what are like 3 great books you love, Mishell?
So one of my favorite books that really changed was Think and Grow Rich. And that was one of the first books I read back when I was at Howard University. And it really changed. And it was something that really helped me. For myself personally, I come from some challenges and difficulties, blue collar background. Like I said, there were some abuses and things that happened to me. So there's a book by Joyce Meyers, Battlefield of the Mind. So when I tell people my journey has just simply been to take captive my thoughts, because thoughts become things. Wallace Wattles, The Science of Getting Rich, is a really old book. It's about that from that Think and Grow Rich era, and it really talks about the science of getting rich. It's by Wallace Wattles, and he really talks about thoughts becoming things. That's what we don't realize. Every thought and every word is a seed for your future. So where we are today is a result of everything we thought and spoke yesterday.
Yeah.
So you want a different tomorrow, it requires changing what we say and what we think. More importantly, what we think, because what we say is the result of a thought. It's the afterthought, right? Your words don't actually have as much power as your thoughts.
Yeah.
And that requires work. We've been conditioned, right, by our upbringing. Everybody was created to be incredible. We've been conditioned, right? Remember when you walked, and it was like when a baby walks, it's like a Super Bowl touchdown.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, everybody loses their mind. Right?
Yeah.
And then when they start walking, what are they told? No, stop, don't. No, stop, don't. No, stop, don't. To keep them safe. But no one, for the most part, most people aren't reconditioned to understand that the no, stop, don't was to keep you safe. And now I'm going to remind you that you can be anything you want to be. They are still conditioned in that no, stop, don't. So we automatically tell ourselves that.
Yes. Mishell, like you are amazing. Like, I'm so glad Tara introduced me to you. And, you know, as we kind of close out the show and wrap things up, I always like to ask my guests, you know, every day I want to practice gratitude, because for me, especially right now during the pandemic, like I feel like we just have to treasure everything we have and be thankful for everything we have. So for you, what are you grateful for right now? What are you thankful for?
So my biggest gratitude is that I did not give up on myself.
Mm.
That I believe that I had purpose. I've always believed that or I got to a point in my life where I actually believed that it wasn't happening to me, it was happening for me. So I'm
Mm.
grateful that I embodied that and just said, and I just learned to say thank you. No matter what happened, I would cry, I'd be disappointed, I'd be hurt, I'd be ashamed, but I just somehow find a way to say thank you. I don't know why this is happening to me, but I know it's going to have meaning. And so I'm grateful that I had that level of faith, because now it has meaning. Now everything gets to be a gift.
And now you share it with us,
Now I share it.
and you
Yes.
share it with the world.
Yes.
And what do you think has been one of the big life lessons that you've learned?
My biggest life lesson is that pretty much love is what changes things, and most people have never experienced unconditional love. And so the lesson for me is to leave people better off. I don't get to say who gets it, I just get to be a blessing. So my biggest life lesson is that is just be a blessing. Everyone and everything is my teacher. It's like that Buddha, it's like an old Eastern understanding. So my biggest life lesson, that again, it goes back to it's all working in my favor. So receive it as such.
Oh, I love it. Love it.
And it's not always easy, because there's things you're like, really, this is a blessing.
Yeah.
Right? Or there's people in front of you, you're like, really, this person's a blessing. So you're mine. So sometimes
We can learn what we don't want in our
right,
life.
yeah. Sometimes you might
There's
go,
a lesson.
are you sure?
Oh, Mishell, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And
Thank
for
you, Fanny.
all of you out there in the audience, please connect with Mishell. I mean, you blew up the comments. You lifted us up. You inspired us. You motivated us. You reminded us to be brave.
Yes.
And with all that, how can we not sell better?
Exactly.
Uh,
Exactly.
So thank you. Thank you so much, Mishell. Really appreciate your time today. And everyone go connect with her. Find Mishell Baker. You can find her on LinkedIn. It is Mishell R. Baker, right? On
Yes.
LinkedIn. Yes.
Yes, yes. And I think so you probably tagged me so they could click on that highlighted name and it'll take them right to me.
Absolutely. And so as I close out the show, I want to remind all of you out there to continually shine your light. You have a message to share. You have a voice that other people need to hear, and share your message and share your value with the world through video.
Yes. And thank you, Fanny, for what you do and shining your light. This is so special.
Thank you.